Hello everyone, good afternoon. Current time is 1:19 and the total number of attendees that I have at the moment is 18 and I'm expecting 50 students. So let's start now. My name is Dryrun and I'm welcoming you all to my 21st century class. Today is Wednesday, 26th day of August 2020, and we'll be running this session for 2 hours. Let me begin by setting the online classroom rules. So students, please remember to be polite at all times. Pay attention to the presentation. You have to participate when you are called. And if you need to ask questions, you can send a message through our chat box. Please don't forget to mute your microphone and turn on your cameras. Okay? So today's lesson is about the approaches to reading literature. But before that, let me read to you our learning objectives. At the end of the period, the students must be able to first identify the different reading approaches, and second, to write a close analysis and critical interpretation of a literary text. Being known as the digital natives or the I generation, if you are to choose between a Divergent series or the Game of Thrones versus your webcomics or manga-toon, which will you choose? May I call on John Francis. Which do you prefer? Your Divergent series? Have you read your Divergent series? Or your manga-toon? You may turn on your camera. John Francis? How about, he's not yet online, how about Aldrich? If you're to choose between a Divergent series or a web comics, which is manga-toon, which will you choose? Have you read that or you're watching the film version? Okay. Who among you is fond of the web comics or prefers web comics rather than the hardbound books? Anyone? Raphael, are you reading web comics? Manga-toon. In reading this manga-toon. You're more of a visual learner. Very good. Thank you for your answer. Okay, let's continue. So between Bob Ong or Nicholas Sparks, so are you more linked to the local writer, or do you prefer local writer or the internationally renowned authors like Nicholas Sparks? So this is what will be running through the entire session. This is what our lesson is about. So as I was reading these approaches to reading literature, I came across this concept of Manila-centric view. So according to this perspective, literature from the center appears to be more valid to the readers, and they do not question the Manila-centric view of Philippine literature. So what is this concept about? So based on this perspective, authors from Metro Manila tend to be more accepted by the readers from the rest of the country as opposed to their regional counterpart. Perhaps it is because the central government, the big universities, the corporate headquarters, and even the publishing houses are mostly based in Metro Manila. So as a student, do you agree to this mindset that the Manila writers are they are better than the regional writers? What can you say? May I call on Samantha? Do you prefer, good afternoon, do you prefer international writers or our own local writers? And do you agree to this Manila-centric view of literature? That the writers who are based in Manila, they are better. Okay, let me just paraphrase my questions. Manila-centric is more on the Manila-based writers versus the provincial-based writers. I think I said international, sorry. So you agree that provincial writers are at some way better than the national writers. I mean Manila writers as well. You do not agree, okay. So what is your stand once again? Okay. What about the rest of the class? Do you agree to the Manila-centric view of literature? May I call on Rafael? Which one for you is better? The writers that are based in Manila or the regional writers? And why do you think the other is better than the other? I mean, the Manila writers are better than the regional writers or vice versa? Let's just ask one more student before we move forward to our lesson. Okay, that's a very well said piece, Rafael, and I do agree with you. Both writers, regardless where they came from, have their own strong points and weak points, and they both have to be acknowledged. And with the rise of technology, the regional writers are now being acknowledged nationally. Okay, so let's continue. Let's have a quick game. It's a name game, boys versus the girls. So I want you to guess who is shown in the picture. Anyone can guess who is shown in the picture? Anyone? Do you have any idea who is shown in the picture? Just to test how well you are familiar with your local writers. None? So this lady that I am presenting at the moment, she is the famous Jessica Safra. Okay, the score goes to me, okay? Just kidding. Okay, let's continue. How about this gentleman? Can you recall or do you know who is this gentleman? He is famous. He is also known as a comedian and a writer. You know him? None? So this gentleman is Lord de Vera. He is, no, it's not Babong. It's Lloyd de Vera. Okay. I guess I will be the winner for this game. And what about this gentleman? Who is he? He is from Bicol. It's okay, Francis, if you're having slow connection, it's okay. Anyone? So this gentleman is our very own Richard Madrilejos. He is a professor at the Bicol University. He is a known writer as well. Okay, I have here on the screen the list of the 21st century writers, both in Bicol region and, in the National Capital Region. We have Merlinda Bobbies, we have Ricardo Lee, we have Alvin Yapan, and from NCR, we have Rosmond Tuazon, we have Carlson Ong, and the rest. So this is just a brief overview of some of the writers that we have now in the country. So let me officially welcome you to our lesson, which is the different approaches in reading literature. So we have 4 approaches in reading literature according to the book Beyond Borders by Maria Socorro Q. Perez and Alona Guevara and the rest. According to them, there are 4 approaches. And the first approach is your examining context. So as we go along with our lesson, we will know what is there in examining the context. Then followed by your second approach, which is your exploring text and context. Third approach is your engaging of text. Then fourth approach is your producing text. Okay, so in today's lesson, we will not only look into the writer's style. We will look into the dynamics of the entire literary text. We will discuss the extrinsic factors that leads to the development of the story. So in the first approach, which is your examining context, this is when you have to look into the history. You have to know when the story was written. So the keyword here is you have to do your own research. You have to find out the connection between your text and the extrinsic influence using your research skill. So when was the story written? What is the author's background? You discuss the societal issue that is present during that time when the story was written that leads to the development of the story. What is the author's stand on the said issue? Let's say, for example, the text or a specific story was written in 1986 rather. So what is there in 1986? What happened during that time? So you have to relate everything to that literary text. So this is what you call examining your context. It's more on the extrinsic factors that influence or that makes the creation of the literary text possible. So next approach is your exploring text and context. So in your exploring text and context, this is your typical text analysis that we normally do in class. First, you have to come up with a brief summary. You discuss the elements of the story, the setting, the plot, the character development, who among the characters undergo the most changes that leads to such dynamic character. Okay? You discuss the point of view. Who is telling the story? Whose perspective? Is it the main character? Is it the narrator or someone else's which is not part of the story? So what else do you have to discuss here? Who is the most powerful character? Is it the main character or the supporting character? Then you also have to identify the theme. Is it about war? Is it about love, hatred, love for country? Even the genre, you have to identify as well. Is it a comedy? Is it romantic comedy? So this is what exploring text and context is all about. So we've been doing this ever since. So our next approach, and I believe is the easiest part because you've been doing this probably since grade 1, if I remember it correctly, In this approach, you have to simply answer the guide questions found at the end of the selection. So at some point, the second approach and the third approach are interrelated. They are connected to each other. And lastly, your fourth approach is your producing text. This is my favorite of all four approaches because the main point here, as the title implies, is for you to produce a text. So how are you going to do this? You can do this by either you can write a feature article related to the theme of the story, or you come up with a critical paper discussing the issue or the main concept of the story, or you can also recreate the story. You may have your own version of the ending, or you can simply elaborate the significance of some statements in the story. So at this point, do you have any questions? Class, do you have any questions at this point? So those are what the four approaches is all about. Let me just admit some of your classmates. Do you have any questions? Okay, if you don't have any questions about the lesson, I'm giving you 20 seconds. You may stand up. Those of you who wish to go to the bathroom or drink some water, you may do so. 20 seconds. Let us all relax our eyes. Okay. While waiting for the 20 seconds to finish, I will just admit some of the students. Okay. The rest of you who do not wish to go to the bathroom, you may stand up. I repeat, you may stand up and move away from the screen for at least 20 seconds. So you can rest your eyes. Okay. At this point, I am now posting your activity number 1. So last night, I have posted the different groupings. So you should know by now who are your members. So this activity is divided into 5 parts. Okay, so for the first part rather, the leader is John Francis. So you will be doing the reading approach number 1. The second part is the leader is Earl Stephen. You will be doing the reading approach number 2. Part 3, the leader is Lord Jonah. Okay, and you will be doing the reading approach number 3. Part 4 is the leader is Justin. You will be doing reading approach number 4. Part 5, the leader is Pamela, and you will be doing the reading approach number 4 as well. So this is just a collaborative analysis of the text that I have given you last night, entitled Clearing Debt. Okay, so I'm giving you 5 minutes. You can go back to the classroom and reread the story, this one that I posted last night. After you read the story, you can start working with the activity. So it's Clearing Debt by Nadine Sariel. So current time is 1:42. So by 1:47, you can start doing your activity number 1, class activity number 1. Are all the leaders present at this time? Let me check. Okay, so for group 1, John Francis is here. So you will be presenting the activity. So group 2, let me see this here. For group 2, Carl Vincent, are you with me? Carl Vincent, you will be presenting your work for this activity. Earl? Is Earl present? Let's see. None? I have seen him earlier. Okay, for group 3, Bonina will be presenting. Bonina, can you please acknowledge? Selan, can you acknowledge? You will be presenting your activity. Okay. You may start working. I've already posted class activity number 1. You will be working together with, starting with Kathleen. You know your groupings, right? Starting with Kathleen until Marielle. Okay, so you will be the leader for group 4. May I call on Sushmita? Can you please acknowledge? Gonzalez, are you online? Not yet. Okay, what about Katrina? Katrina, so you will be presenting later. Katrina May, you will be presenting your work for the first activity, okay? So we have Katrina May, Selan. For group 3, Alejandro. Okay, thank you. Then for group 2, is Earl available? Carl Vincent. Carl Vincent? Can you turn on your microphone? Carl Vincent? Okay. Noted. I got your message. Thank you. And John Francis, you will, Carl Vincent, you will be for group 2. And for group 1, it will be John Francis. John Francis, can you acknowledge? You can send a message or you can turn on your microphone. Okay, thank you. Okay, it's up to you. It's your own strategy of presentation. For as long as you present your part in the activity. Okay, so you may start working with your class activity. So by the way, class, how do you want us to do the presentation? Would you rather do the presentation itself, or you want me to present it from my screen or your screen? Which is easier for you? Anyone? Okay, I'll just have it through my screen. Anyway, I can see everything that you're doing in the activity number 1. Okay, you may start working now. So for this activity, I'm giving you, let's say 15 minutes is okay, or 10 minutes? Yes po, ma'am. Okay, thank you, Carl, for the response. Okay, so these are your questions for group 1. These are your questions. Applying the reading approach number 1, which is examining your context, you have to answer the 4 questions. When or where is the story written? Discuss the societal issue present during this time that leads to the development of the story. What is the author's background, and what is the author's stand on the issue? For group 2, so applying reading approach number 2, which is exploring text and context, come up with a brief summary, discuss the different elements found in the story, your setting, plot, character, your character development, your point of view, theme, literary devices, and what else? You identify and the theme as well. For group 3, applying the reading approach number 3, which is engaging text. What is the setting of the story? What do you think is going to take place there? Who are the characters? What does the narrator feel about what is happening? And why is he or she is tasked to pull the lever? Then what is the significance of the title? What is the debt? What debt is to be cleared? So if you can see, group 2 and 3, your questions are at some point intertwined, because exploring in engaging text, as we've discussed, you simply have to answer the guide questions below. It coincides with your exploring text and context. Then group 4, you're producing text. So the following statements are taken from the 6 mark section of the story. If you were to recreate these parts, how would you present it? So I have taken some parts from the story, and you will have to recreate or come up with your own version of narrating the story. How are you going to do it? Okay? So I have here 3 parts for group 4. Then group 5, same with the group 4. There are some statements that are taken from the selection or sections of the story, and you also have to recreate these parts. Okay, you may now start working. I'll just have the screen under this activity, so I will know your the changes that you are doing. By now, you should have read the story because I've posted it last night.
Ma'am,
Yes.
na-post niyo na po yung activity sa classroom?
Okay, yes. I think yes, but let me post it again.
Okay po. Thank you, ma'am.
Okay. Okay, it is now being posted. You can have access to it now. Thank you for that.
Welcome po.
Group 1, are you done?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay, are you now ready to present? Okay, you may now start. Okay, Jen Francis, are you the one who's gonna present? Okay. So we'll just have the screen from my end, so it will be easier. So you just have to read the questions and your answers to that. So I will be presenting the screen from my end so all your classmates can see your answers. Okay, you may start now, Francis.
Ma'am, may on pa po ba yung camera? Kasi po, naka-charge po ako sa...
It's okay if you're charging, you don't have to use your camera. Just introduce yourself first, then you read the questions, then your answer. And what approach are you using? So what is there in this specific approach? You can just give a brief background for this specific approach.
So, good afternoon, everyone. I am John Francis Art Bedis. You can call me Art. This is the work of our group number one. So, the task given to us is to perform the first approach, which is examining the context. Well, the first approach tells us about the background of the author, where the story was written, and what is the point of view of the author or the writer, and the current societal issues that is associated with the article or with the story. So the first question in our group is, when or where the story written? So the setting of the story took place inside the execution hall, and the story was created when that penalty was enforced during Ferdinand Marcos' time as the president in the Philippines. So with the second question. The second question is to discuss the societal issue present during this time that leads to the development of the story. The societal issue that was present during the time led to the development of the story was that penalty. Then the third one.
Let me just butt in. So, as a group, do you agree to this death penalty? Does your group agree to this death penalty?
No po, ma'am.
And why is that? What is your religion? Are you all Catholic? So, do you think that punishment should be in the hands of us humans, or it should be with someone higher than us, higher being, which is God, or what? Do you agree to this death penalty, Group 1? Anyone can answer. There is no wrong answer. Group 1?
Ma'am, can you repeat the question po?
do you agree to death penalty? You've said that during the societal issue present when the story was written was death penalty. Do you agree to this?
No po, ma'am. No, because,
No.
ma'am, because the law of the Philippines that and does not have death penalties.
We do not have death penalty yet.
And the law is based from the religion the biggest religion in the Philippines, which is Roman Catholic, which abides or does not accept death penalty.
Okay. What about, do you have the same opinion for the rest of the group?
Ma'am, I think no po ma'am kasi ang penalty po ma'am is against sa human rights which is yung right to life. Also po ma'am kung i-enforce yung death penalty dito sa Pilipinas, yung mga leaders po dito sa Pilipinas, parang ano po ma'am, like for example pag yung isang crime po ma'am na nakagawa ka ng crime tapos yung position mo sa government is mataas, parang di ka po yung crime po like di ka po makukulong pero pag sa mga normal na tao po yung mga makukulong sila po like pag pag normal na tao diretso po sila kulong tapos kung death penalty po di ba ka po mapatay agad sila. Parang
So,
hindi po injustice government po ang Pilipinas ngayon. Nakapansin mo.
okay. So, before this specific law be imposed, there should be at least a thorough investigation as to whether the person who committed the crime is really did the crime or not. So, because we will not know whether, cause we will not know whether that person is really guilty or not. Is that what you're trying to say? The disparity, there is some loopholes in the justice system in the Philippines. Anyway, so let's move to our next question, which is, you may continue, Francis.
Let's proceed to the question number 3. And the third question is the author's background.
Okay.
So, our group researched that Nadine El Sarael
Sariel.
Sariel was
Mhm.
born in settle
Shuttle.
Shuttle to Filipino parents.
Okay.
She is the author of 2 volumes of poetry, Start of Infinity, 1973, and In the Fullness of Time, 1991. She holds an NFA in creative writing from Belmont College. After residing with her family in Euless,
Okay. Texas. Yeah.
Texas, Nadine is now based in Singapore with her family. Her work has often appeared in o- in our own voice.
Okay. Next question.
What is the author's stand on what is the author's stand on the said issue? So the author's stand on the said issue appears to be against the idea of death penalty. And the author made sure to highlight the actual situation wherein people are being tortured and killed mercilessly. And that really just showed how the author is not in favor of how violent and degrading that penalty is as a way of punishment because it badly violates the most fundamental human right, the right to life.
Okay. Very well said, Group 1. Okay. Let's move on with Group 2. Are you now ready, Group 2? Carl? Carl Vincent?
Yes po.
Okay.
So, good afternoon everyone. This is the of the group 2. Reading approach number two, exploring text and context. So the first question, come up with a brief summary. So this is the summary that we've made. The text talks about a woman who is about to go through death penalty and a man who has a debt and undertook the job of the executioner. And one particular note is his reluctance in doing his job. The text does not talk about her offense or the woman's offense, but it mentioned the woman switching of religion before her execution. The discuss the elements found in the story. So there are seven important elements found in the story, namely number one, setting. Setting means the time, place, and environment in which the main character or narrator operates. So the story takes place in a single room, the
Oh,
executioner.
yes, your single room is your execution room. Okay, correct. That's correct.
Next element is the characters. The characters are the people that featured in the story, and there are many types of characters, namely the protagonist, antagonist, flat, round, and confident. These are the characters presented in the story. Senior Warden, uh, the crowd, the narrator, a woman who is about to be executed, and two reporters. Next element is the point of view. The point of view tells how the story is told, and maybe first person, second person, or third person can be used in the story. So the story is from a first person point of view because of the phrases I and we, and since the narrator is the actor itself.
Okay, who do you think is the, I mean, whose point of view from which the story is being told? Who is the one narrating the story, clearing that?
The executioner.
Yes, correct. It's the executioner. He is the one who is narrating the story. Okay,
Yes.
and it's first person. That's correct. Okay.
The next element is the plot, and plot means the sequence of the story. Next element is
Wait. What do you think is the climax of this story? Which part do you think is the climax?
I think the climax.
The climax is when.
The climax is when the 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 executioner was uh, or I should I say there is someone who is calling from the telephone that will mark the execution yung part.
Okay, any other answer from your group? Okay, the climax there is found in part 4. It is when the senior warden says, "Gentlemen," senior warden said, "and ladies," nodding in our direction, for I stood behind her to the side of the chair. "It's time. Mark the hour." It is when the executioner is about to do the execution. That's your highest point of interest in the story. When the executioner is about to kill the prisoner, that is your climax. Okay? And your theme?
The theme means the central argument of the author, and our theme that we think that the theme of the story is about death. Death.
Yes, it is about death. Okay?
And next
And
element is the conflict. Conflict motivates characters, affects the plot, and ultimately dictates the theme of the narrative.
so, what is your conflict there? Where does your conflict reside in that specific story? Who is experiencing this conflict? Yes.
The conflict is self versus self ng narrator.
It's man versus himself. Yes, that's correct. Man versus himself. So the executioner is having this struggle whether to do the job or not, since it is his job to kill the prisoner, but then again, he is having his own doubts as well. Okay, so that's your conflict. And what about your symbolism? Where is your symbolism?
The next element is symbolism helps to layer with a narrative. I think
Your symbolism here can be found first in your title. Tell me, why is there a symbolism in your title? Why do you think there's a symbolism in your title? Clearing debt. What, what debt do you have to clear in the part of the executioner? What does he needs to pay for? His own debt, right? That's why he accepted the job. He accepted the $5,000 dollars payment for the job, even though he has his own doubts. So that's the symbolism there. And clearing debt for the case of the prisoner as well, because he is paying for his own whatever whatever crime that he did. That's why he will be executed. Okay, that's your symbolism. So this one, we're done with this. Characters. Is there a character development in the story? Not that much, right? Most of them are flat characters. Yes, that's correct. Most of them are flat characters. So genre. So my question now is your victim, is your prisoner male or female? Is your prisoner male or female?
a female.
Female, yeah. She's a female, correct. Okay. Anything else from group 2? Anything else that you wish to add? None? Tapos na? We're done? Okay. Okay, thank you. Thank you, Carl. Okay. Okay, group 3. Selan, how do you read your name? Selan. Okay, are you now ready with your engaging text? Okay, you may start.
Good afternoon, everyone. Here's the work of Group 3. We are tasked to answer the following questions. Number 1. What is the setting of the story? What do you think is going to take place there? The setting is in a chamber. It is where a woman will be punished through death penalty. Question number 2. Who are the characters? They are Senior Walden, the woman, the narrator, and the crowd. For question number 3, what does the narrator feel about what is happening? Why is he or she tasked to pull the lever? Our answer is, the narrator felt guilty and scared. He was tasked to pull the lever because he was paid to do his job. He already got the money to do the job. And number 4, what is the significance of the title? What debt is to be cleared? Our answer is, the title emphasizes the narrator's feelings toward his job, which was to execute the woman against his will to clear his own debt. The debt referred the debt referred was the narrator's debt to the senior Walden, as he was paid to do the task, even though it was against his will. That's
Okay.
all. Thank you.
Okay, thank you, group 3. Okay, may I call on group 4? Okay, this is the most interesting part. So you will come up with your own version of the text. So group 4, are you now ready, Samantha?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay, you may start now.
For group 4, producing text, the
Okay.
directions is that if you were to recreate the parts in the literary piece, how would you present it? For us,
You
we
may.
made the story more detailed,
Okay.
and we put a lot of the descriptions or descriptive words. That's why the it mas humaba po siya.
Okay.
It became lengthy.
Okay, it's okay.
So I will read what we recreated.
Okay, you first read the. Okay, sorry. You read first the initial text that was taken from Nadine Sariel's story. Then after that, you read your own version.
Okay po, ma'am.
Okay.
So for the first part, it was my first time, and as it turned out, also my last. I heard the guard tell them she had converted 3 times before coming to the chamber. Christian to Buddhist, Buddhist to Muslim, Muslim to Christian again. He seemed puzzled by the sequence. So the text that we recreated is, it was both my first and last. The act of executing someone frightens and rattles me to the core that I highly doubt that there will be a next time in this lifetime. During her interrogation, which happened long before the dreaded moment, her religion was brought up. The guard claimed that she had her religion changed 3 times before being taken by the authorities. From Christian, she was converted to Buddhist. Then she converted herself from Buddhist to Muslim. Weirdly enough, she converted herself back to Christian. The guard's face, filled with puzzlement, was no surprise due to the oddness of the sequence. So for
Okay.
the part two, the original text was, I had taken the 5,000. It paid my debts of the moment. So the recreated one is, I took what I had to, 5,000 to be specific. It was enough to pay all my shortcomings of the moment. For part 3, the original text is, we were both afraid, but I more than she, because I would live after her execution. The recreated part is, it would be understandable that no person could be more terrified than she was. After all, it was her life being brought to an end. Nevertheless, the fact that I get to live with this fearsome experience eating me out slowly for the rest of my life petrified me, possibly even more than that petrified her. That's all, ma'am. Thank you.
Okay. I like your own versions. Very well stated. You've created it very well. Thank you, Group 4. Okay. Group 5. Katrina, are you now ready?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay, you may start.
For group 5, the same reading approach as the previous group, which is producing text. The direction is, the following statements are taken from the 6 marked sections of the story. If you were to recreate these parts, how would you present it? We made our recreated text is precise so the readers will easily understand the meaning of the text. The original text is, Senior Warden paced the room. He glanced only once at the red phone. At 10 he nodded. It's time. Marked the hour. Senior Warden was walking back and forth, then took a glimpse at the red phone and signaled me when the clock struck at 10. He said, It's time. Mark the hour. The next is, I had to will my fingers toward the metal lever. It was my
Lever.
lever. I had taken money. Did they see the wet marks down the legs of my pants? Our recreated text is, I get paid from this job. I just have to put my finger on the metal lever. But I wonder if they see my pants got damp. Then the last
Don't.
is, the phone rang as we left the chamber. Whoever was calling, whatever it was, they had to say it was too late. We left when the phone rang in the chamber. It's too late, whoever and whatever it was for.
Okay. So, how was your experience in applying the reading approaches? Which among these approaches is your favorite? Anyone? Mine is the recreating of text or the producing of text. That's my favorite. You don't have any favorites yet? Anyway, for sure in our next activity, you will appreciate it more. Okay, let's continue now. So, this was discussed already. Okay. So, I am now giving you 20 seconds again. If you wish to go to the bathroom, let's rest again for 20 seconds before we move to our second activity. And for this activity, I want you to look for a pair. You will be working by pair. So right now it's, wait. So let's see. 2:19. Let's say 1 minute for you to rest your eyes while I'm posting your second activity. And thank you very much for those very well informed and very good recreated version of the story. Okay, I just posted your activity number 2, which you will be doing by pair. And we'll have the rest of the period for you to finish it. Okay. Okay. Class, are you now back to your posts? Can I now continue with our presentation? Okay. So for your activity number 2, you have to recreate the story and come up with your own version using a different point of view. So Nadine Sariel, the person who was telling the story, as created by Nadine Sariel, was the executioner. So for your activity number 2, so you will have your own, how will I say it? You will have your own version using a different point of view or perspective. So it can be from the perspective, you can tell the story from the perspective of the warden maybe, or from the perspective of the prisoner herself, or probably from the perspective of one of the visitors. So this is 20 points. Word count is 400 to 500 words. And you can use the same format as Nadine Sariel's, wherein she divided her story by parts. Okay, she make use of the Roman numerals to give portions to do the portioning of the story. It need not be that lengthy, probably about 400 to 500 words only. So here is the rubric for activity number 2. So I will look into your ideas, the way you present your ideas, original presentation, original version, your own version of the story. So 4 being the highest, 1 lowest, of course. Your understanding and relevance to the theme. So what do you think is, apart from death, what do you think is the other theme of this story? It is also about what? Anyone? It is also about, apart from death, it is also about poverty, correct? Because the executioner, she is forced, at some point, she forced herself to do the job, although she is not confident, she is not certain, she doesn't want the job at all. If you can see it in her statement, let me just read it to you. Something like, it was my first, and as it turned out, also my last. So there is the hesitation from her end. So you can also discuss, you can look into that theme as well if you want to. Okay, so writing shows strong understanding and relevance to the theme. Okay, 4, that will be the score. I will look into your organization as well. If your story, if the sequencing of your story from beginning to end is it well connected story, okay? It doesn't move away from the flow of the story, from the theme, okay? So I will also look into your word choice. So you have to make use of your nouns and verbs, okay? Your essay has to be very informative. I will give 4 points to that. But I have seen when you do, especially groups 4 and 5, when you do the recreation of your own version, it was very well stated. So for sure, this will be very easy for you. So I will look into your sentence structure as well. So the flow of your sentences, is it coherent? Is it well developed? So these are the 5 key points that I will be looking into, and activity number 2 will be gaining, or I will be putting 20 points for this activity. You work by pair, you choose a pair. Okay, what else? So before you officially go back to the classroom and work on this activity, this will also serve as your offline activity as well. And this activity number 2, you will finish it for the remaining of the session. I will give you, anyway, it's a very lengthy activity because you have to recreate or come up with your own story, your own version. So 30 minutes is okay for this, and for this will serve as your offline activity as well. And you need not to worry because today is Wednesday and the deadline for this is on Friday at 5 p.m. Okay, so let's just have a summary or generalization of today's activity. Today's lesson. So let's have a recall. What are the 4 approaches? What's the first approach? Examining context. Yes, that's your first approach. What about your second approach? So in your examining context, you have to look into the extrinsic factors. You have to do your research. You look into the extrinsic factors that leads to the development of the story. And your second approach is?
Exploring text and context.
Okay, you're exploring text and context. So what is there in your exploring text and context? This is your what?
Elements such as settings, plot, characters, and identifying the type of genre.
Okay. So typically, this is what we normally do when we do text analysis. You come up with a brief summary, you identify the different elements, you discuss the different elements. That is your exploring text and context. And your third approach is?
Engaging text.
Your engaging text. So what is there in your engaging text?
Answering the guide question found at the end of the.
Okay, very good. So engaging text is simply answering all the guide questions that are found towards the end of the selection. And your favorite and my favorite as well, your last approach is your producing text, correct? So what is there in your producing text? So you have to recreate your story. You come up with a critical analysis of the paper. Okay, you can do that. The main goal here is for you to make your own version of the literary text. So my question now is, which do you think is the most useful approach to you as a student and why? Anyone can answer. Which is the most useful? Hmm? Can you make it louder, please? Producing of text. Why is it the most useful approach to you as a student?
Because, as what was said a while ago, um, it uses critical analysis. That's why it will improve our skills in writing, especially in doing our own version of a story or an article.
Okay, any other answer? Very good, thank you for that. Because you have to do your close analysis and critical interpretation of your text. You have to, um, you have to, how will I say it? You have to appreciate the writer's masterpiece. You give a profound appreciation. So you will not only look, you will not look, will not just only look into why did she write it, why was it written that time, but you have to understand the writer as well. You have to dig deeper. Okay. Let us now discuss the application of this lesson. What is the essence of this reading approach, apart from what you have just said a while ago? Since you will be going to college, and for sure, in your literature class, you'll, you'll be doing a lot of this text analysis. Okay? What else? What can you say about a story? When a specific story is written, what does it say about the society in which it was written? Let's say Merlinda Bubis, she's a Bicolano writer. So if she's writing a story, for sure, it will give a glimpse of the setting, probably the culture of Bicol at some point in the story. Okay, so stories are what? It it what does it do to the society? Are you still with me? Huh? Stories are what? They what's the best word here? Stories are, it's a reflection. It's a reflection of,
Situation of our society.
perfect. Yeah, that's correct. It's a reflection of the society. What is the current or the rising ideology in that era? What is the prevailing dilemma in that time? What are the beliefs in that society? What are the taboos in that society? So at one way or another, it will reflect in the story. So stories are both fragments of the country's history because it mirrors the past, the present, and as well as its future. So anything else from me? Do you have any questions at this point? Anyone? Do you have any questions? None? Yes? No? Are you still awake?
None po.
None. Okay, thank you. So let me just post your quiz. This is a very short quiz. Um, 4 items, just for me to know if you were able to grasp today's lesson. So I am posting it now. Anyway, the deadline of this, I've set it for tomorrow, but if you wish to answer it now, I don't mind. Okay. So I've scheduled it at 3 p.m. So you can still work on with your activity number 2. Do you have any questions with your activity number 2? Just look for a pair and you can work as a pair. Okay. So I have now posted as well today's lesson. So this is just your activity number 2. So this is your text. The deadline, I repeat, is on Friday. Okay, 5 p.m. So let's see. Okay, for your assignment, I want you to read the story. This is for next week. This is for next week class. I want you to read the story, The Tale of Tonyo the Brave, written by Maria Alea G. Taboklaon. It's a very interesting story. I've read it already, and for sure you'll like it as well. So I am now giving you the rest of the period to finish on activity number 2. So do you have anything else for me to work on your activity number 2 rather? So do you have anything else for me, class? I hope you enjoyed today's lesson. I enjoyed as well. Okay. I am now officially finishing today's lesson and giving you 30 minutes to work on activity number 2. Okay. Good. I will be staying here. I will just be turning off my camera, but I'll still be online until 3 o'clock. So if you have questions, you can just send me a message through the chat box and I'll be answering it. Okay? I'll see you next meeting. Thank you, class. Bye.